All right, let's look at some Python for loops. So if you open for loop 1, you'll see that I have some for loops here, 3 for loops. If we run that, you can see that we get the values from the for loops. Notice that the first for loops, we go for A in range to 7. It's going to start at 0 and go up to 7 items. So if it starts at 0, it ends at 6 because that's 7 items. And then you can say for A in range starting value and then an ending value. It starts at 2, which really is the third value if you used to start at 0, but it doesn't start the second value. So it starts at 2. So then we only go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So again, we start at the number 2, but we end at the 7th value in the range, which is 6, right? Of course, it all makes sense. And we can do the same thing here. We can start at 1, go to 7, and count by 2. So we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You would think 7, but no, because it ends at 6 because we're going to the 7th item in the list. So for loops in Python are funky, except when we're using lists, because we know that works out really well. If we do a for loop, if you look at for loop 2, same sort of thing. We can use variables instead of values in there, so it's the exact same code except I have values in the variables instead of values. We get the exact same values. If we look at for loop 3, we have a loop inside a loop. And when we run this, you can see we get a long line of numbers there, because what happens is we execute this one, A is equal to 0, we come into this one, B is equal to 0, then it goes back and does B 5 times, and then it goes back into the second row of A. And if we look at 3A, you can see it a little better. I have the way it's printing, so now you can actually see the values spread out a bit. So A stays at 1, where B goes 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, and then it prints A stays at 1, then it goes to 2, A goes to 3, A goes to 4, and each time A goes to a new one, B resets at 0 and runs through again. If we look at loop 4, you can see that if we run this through, to make it print better, I would like to say in English, first time through the loop. I have the value of 1 with A, but I don't want to say 1 time through the loop, 2 times through the loop. I want to say first time, second time. But if we make a list that says first, second, third, fourth, fifth, we can print that name. And remember, the first item in the list is 0. So we can do A starts at 0, so it's the first time through the list. So even though A is 0, the first item in the list says first because it's the first item in the list, but its index value is 0. Make sense? Hopefully. And this is a really cool technique you can use over and over when you have a number that you want to convert into some English version of it. And you can just make a list of those versions and then just do that. So you can go all the way up to 19, and you could get the English version of 19. Now, this is the 13th time or the 13th viewing, and not just say 1, 3. You could actually have it spelled out as 13. And if we look at 4A, now we just make it a little prettier. So now we do some tabs in there. You can see I have the slash tab in here and the slash in there. And now it looks very pretty, right? And of course, if we do this, it now says through the outer loop, not just through the loop. And we're even just perfect. It's just really pretty. And one final thing with lists. Again, if we make a list, we say names equal bracket, and we'll do Fred and Wilma and Betty and Barney. So we have our list. We can always do for name in names colon print name. And when we run that, we save it and we run it, we get a nice list of names. So again, with the for loop, it's all set up to work with lists right away. And that's it for lists.